he was 17. And at that time, the kids with disabilities were put into a lottery. And every year we would have to fill out forms and try to get in the lottery to get home-based support, which is support for people who choose to remain at home with their families, but they have severe enough disabilities that if they didn't do that, they would be in some sort of institution or something that would be paid for by Medicaid. So every year we would apply, and then finally when Nicole was 17, we hit the jackpot, and he started getting a small monthly allotment, which we could use for things.
Do you want to know more about financial assistance for people with disabilities? Here from history. 1918, funding for rehabilitation. 1935, signing of Social Security Act. 1963, federal funding for infrastructure support. 1965, medical aid. 1975, free education. As a result of the large number of World War I veterans returning with disabilities, Congress passes the first major rehabilitation program for soldiers. In 1920, a bill funding vocational rehabilitation guarantees federal money for job counseling and vocational training for people with disabilities. In 1935, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signs the Social Security Act, establishing a program of permanent assistance to adults with disabilities. In 1963, the Developmental Disabilities Assistance and Bill of Rights Act sets aside money for disability infrastructure support. This includes developing state developmental disabilities councils, protection and advocacy systems, and university centers. In 1965, Title 19 of the Social Security Act creates a cooperative federal and state entitlement program, known as Medicaid, that pays medical costs for certain individuals with disabilities and families with low incomes. In 1975, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act is signed into law. It guarantees a free, appropriate public education for all children with disabilities in the least restrictive environment. What about now?
Which is also from the state of Illinois, from the Department of Human Services, is called Adaptive Equipment, Assistive Technology, and Vehicle Modification. And for that, he's eligible to receive $15,000 every 5 years. And it's one of those things, you use it or lose it. Every 5 years it rolls over to a new $15,000. We used almost all of it when we had our van modified for the wheelchair.
People with disabilities may receive Medicaid. Every state has a Medicaid program with varying coverage and enrollment and renewal processes. In order to be eligible for Medicaid, an adult must be below a certain income level, which varies by state. Medicaid provides medical insurance at no cost, but doctors are not required to accept it. Also, a person with a disability who receives Medicaid cannot have more than $2,000 to his or her name. Supplemental security income benefits from the federal government are available to adults and children with disabilities who have low income and little resources. The basic amount is the same nationwide, but states may add money. The monthly amounts for an eligible individual in 2014 is $721. There is an application process for SSI to ensure the recipient is below income and resource limits. Social Security disability benefits are available from the federal government. A person with a disability is available for this assistance once his or her parent or spouse is eligible for Social Security. The person may receive up to 50% of his or her parent or spouse's Social Security amount. A person with a disability is automatically eligible for Parts A and B of Medicare once he or she receives Social Security disability benefits. This covers the cost of medically necessary services and preventative services. Part A is premium-free, but Part B requires that a premium of $104.90 be paid. Medicare is considered the golden ticket because many places accept it.
When talking about the employment, we learn a term called 14C from Janice from DSC. 14C is a kind of federal waiver that allows places like DSC to pay minimum wages for the people with disabilities. DSC is a co-packer for the manufacturing factories such as Kraft. People with disabilities are able to pack the food and they're paid not by the minimum wages of an hour, but paid by the minimum wages for the single piece. This is an opportunity to work and get a paycheck and for them to have a experience to work. What about future?
That court decree, the state of Illinois is having to pull more of these names. There's a certain amount of, the first pull was 500, then they have to pull 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. So there's this kind of step-up process to allow the whole developmental disability system to get ready for all these people.